Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Pretty Guardian. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 games that did us dirty. Just did not live up to the hype. And, maybe there was even a little bit of fraud involved. So let's go ahead and roll that intro. When I was coming up with the concept for this video, I wanted to talk about a few games that I feel like really did us dirty in the last few years and just kind of bring those to light and talk about them a little bit. I didn't want my title for this video to be too clickbaity, but just to give you a couple alternate titles for what this video could have been. We've got 5 times game developers really thought they could spread these cheeks, or Gamer Girl rants for 10 minutes about game publishers scamming their fans. Either way, let's just jump on in. At the top of my list, we're gonna start at number 5 and work our way to number 1. The bottom 2, I think, are kind of similarly egregious, but the top few are kind of not so bad. So just to kind of give you that idea, we're gonna be working from not so bad to pretty fucking bad. At number 5 on my list, I have the game Ni no Kuni 2. And this was an RPG made by Level 5. It came out back in March 23rd, 2018. And I was super excited to play this game. It had a sort of Studio Ghibli animated quality to it. And I've played Level 5 games in the past. One of the games that they made was Rogue Galaxy back on the PS2. I think it's one of the best sci-fi RPGs of all time. And if they ever did like a remake of it, I would buy it in a heartbeat. So when I saw Ni no Kuni 2, I was like, oh, this looks really awesome. Here's kind of where I made my mistake. I went in and I bought it before the game released. So I didn't get to see any reviews on it. I was just kind of buying into the hype before the game even launched. And I bought the most expensive pack possible for it. I can't remember the exact amount that I paid, but quite frankly, it was way too much. And one of the reasons I felt comfortable buying into it, in addition to liking the genre and the art style and having good experiences with the developers in the past, was that they said that there would be 2 story-based expansions to the game. And so I don't normally buy into the whole DLC thing, because a lot of times companies will say it's DLC, but really it's just like, oh, we added 1 new dungeon, or oh, here are 2 armor sets that don't really enhance the game or do anything for me. But because they said that these would be story-based DLCs, I don't know, maybe I read too much into it, but I felt like their verbiage was kind of making it seem like these would expand on the game in some sort of meaningful way. And quite frankly, they didn't. The DLCs that came out were basically just additional dungeons. They weren't really particularly great ones at that. So even though I had a good experience with the base game, not a great experience, it was kind of a mediocre game overall, if we're being honest. I certainly don't think that they delivered on the DLC that they promised, and I way overpaid for it. So this game is coming in at number 5 on my list. At number 4 on my list is Amazon's game New World. And so if you've been following my channel, you know that I've been playing a lot of New World. I really love it. But the reason that it's on my list is that it ultimately had such a buggy and borderline unplayable state in the beginning. And so for me, I mostly engage in the PvE side of things, so I wasn't really affected by a lot of the negative things that have come out about the game. Depending on what server you're on, people have had kind of wildly different experiences of the game as well. So just as an example, the long queue times, I think, were much worse on the East Coast servers than they were on the West Coast servers. I was on a lower population one called Saknussemm, and I didn't have any issues with logging in. But more and more stuff came out in the game. There was an exploit where you could actually start coding inside the game's chat box and mess with other players with this. So there were people who were putting sausage pictures into the chat, and if you clicked them, your game would crash. There were people doing this flashbang thing where they could cover your screen with yellow boxes, just kind of weird stuff like that. What did me in on the game was when some exploits were coming out as far as like gold duplication and item duplication, and they shut down trading between players and they shut down their auction house. And to me, what made that particularly problematic is that this game is 100% a player-driven economy. So if we're not able to trade, if we're not able to use the auction house, that is an entire feature of the game that is wiped out. And it's necessary because you're not really able to make gold and you're not really able to progress in the way that the game was intended to be played if you're not able to use those features. So for me, it was effectively game breaking. Now, where I personally give New World a lot of credit is that their devs are patching the game pretty much every single week and working on these issues. So I feel like they've made great strides since its launch. And even that issue that I described was able to be resolved within a couple days. But after everything that I've seen, I can't in good faith make more videos about this game. There's just no way that I can be advertising them and talking to people about it and making it seem like it's such a great game when the current state of the game is kind of fucked up. So you won't be seeing any more New World videos from me. My current plan is to keep playing it on my own time, but not talk about it. And in February, I'll kind of see what the state of the game is, what kind of bug fixes and things they've come out with, and we can talk more about the game at that point. But for now, just know that I don't recommend it, I don't condone it. And I think what's most disappointing to me about it is just that I really do love the game so much and think so highly of it. And I was excited to play something new and bring something new to you all. At number 3 on my list is the game Bless Online. So Bless Online is an MMORPG. It came out on Steam on May 30th, 2018. This is a South Korean MMORPG. And what they've kind of been doing is like relaunching the game in area after area. So like South Korea, now we'll take it to the rest of Asia, now we'll take it to Europe, now we'll take it to the US, now we'll take it to mobile, now we'll take it to Xbox. And they kind of revamp it a little bit each time, but quite frankly, each time it's just not a very good game. And so what really bugged me about it is that I spent $40 on it. When it came to the US, it was supposed to be a buy-to-play game. And I thought because it was going to be buy-to-play, there wouldn't be all the free-to-play bullshit in it. And so I was willing to put my $40 in, and I started playing. When I played it, there was an issue with the tutorial. I don't remember the exact nature of the bug, but it effectively made it so you couldn't progress in the game beyond the tutorial. I was eventually able to look up a workaround for that and make it into the actual game. But once I got into the actual game, it just wasn't very good. In terms of quality, it was like a knockoff Black Desert Online. And then not even a couple months later, they just went free to play completely. And what really pisses me off about that is I spent $40 on a game that was just gonna end up free to play. And it was a free to play quality game from the very beginning. Eventually, they upgraded their infrastructure of like the engine that they were using, and they came out on Xbox as Bless Unleashed. I think it's the same bullshit, just repackaged for console. And on the console, I can actually see it being moderately successful because it does have Bandai Namco behind them. And also, there are not very many MMORPGs in the console space. So if that is a genre that people like playing, it's one of the very few options there. So they kind of get some immediate traction in that space that they wouldn't necessarily have on PC. But these motherfuckers really tried to come back for round 2 with Bless Unleashed on PC. And some people bought into it. Not I, said the fly. I was not here for it. So I'm going to be watching this one. It has mixed reviews on Steam. It seems like with each patch, people are kind of identifying more and more pain points with it. If this game makes it to the 2-year mark, I will eat my words. But for now, I'm not counting on it being successful. At number 2 on my list, we have Star Citizen. Star Citizen was announced back in 2012. And my understanding of it was that it was supposed to be a sci-fi based MMO with space simulator and first-person shooter aspects to it. I think especially for 2012, it was a very exciting concept. And they did a Kickstarter that was arguably successful and brought them in $2 million. The scam here is that they've continued to take in millions of dollars from their fans without actually producing a finished game. When I say finished, I don't mean that it has to be perfect and completely done and never needing support ever again. That's not realistic. I just mean a minimum viable product that has had an official release date. Eventually, the concept was pared back, and there was talk of releasing a story-based single-player mode called Squadron 42. Yeah, that game hasn't seen the light of day either. Online gaming media outlet Den of Geek published an article written back in May 3rd, 2019 by Matthew Bird. I'll link it in the description box below, but it talks about Chris Roberts, the creative mind behind Star Citizen, and the rumors that he had taken money that was invested in one of his games by Microsoft and used that to partially fund his failed movie Wing Commander. There are a lot of other bizarre stories about this guy on the internet, and I just bring this up to point out that if the countless rumors about this guy are true, then we shouldn't be surprised if he's mismanaging the funds and development of Star Citizen 2. Even if we're to give him the benefit of the doubt, at the very least, it appears like he had a grandiose scope and vision for the game that he didn't have the expertise or money to deliver on. I bring the money thing up because some people estimate that they've made up to $300 million over the last decade through all of their combined efforts, from Kickstarters to selling in-game ships for a game that doesn't exist. That number seems high to me, so I'm kind of skeptical of it. But going back to the original Kickstarter, a few $1,000,000 isn't enough to make an MMO on the scale that they were describing. Just to give you an idea here, Star Wars The Old Republic was a sci-fi MMO RPG that came out in 2011, and that game cost $200 million to develop. That's a little bit on the high side, but if it gives us any idea or gleaning into the scope of what it costs to make one of these big MMOs, then it should be very clear that the Kickstarter was never going to make it. Finally, at number 1 on my list is Chronicles of Illyria. Chronicles of Illyria was supposed to be an MMORPG that started production back in 2016 after raising $1.3 million through Kickstarter. According to Wikipedia, they've raised an additional $7.7 million through their website, but I wouldn't be surprised if they made more than that since then. The game had a lot of ideas that were interesting at the time, such as player-driven economy and that your character could grow old and die, and there was an emphasis placed on your legacy moving forward, although I'm not 100% certain on what that means. Back in the day when I was looking at playing the game, I thought they were planning some kind of reincarnation system where your soul lives on in a new life and carries some kind of perks with it from the legacy that you had built in your previous life. For most of their development, they had a tentative release date of December 2019, which they obviously never delivered on. Right away, it looks like the game suffered from the grandiose scope and vision combined with the lack of expertise to deliver on the final product, kind of in the same way that Star Citizen did. There was no way that this scale of a game was going to be made with less than $10 million. What made things even crazier, though, is that in March of 2020, they laid off their staff. And right now, they have a class action lawsuit against them in the state of Washington that was brought forth by the backers of the game who never got the game. As of right now, the studio head, Jeremy Walsh, is claiming that they're continuing active development on the game. In July, they actually wrapped up their alpha testing. There was an NDA involved with it, though, so I don't know how much we'll see about it. I did try a quick YouTube search and nothing new or meaningful really popped up. That doesn't mean it isn't out there. I just did a quick look around to kind of like round out the work that I was putting in this video. My personal belief is that they're going to continue with this facade of working on the game and pretending like a product is in the works to help them stay out of hot water with the lawsuit. I don't think our legal system has really caught up to the kind of fraud, also my opinion, that we're seeing here. And they might be able to weasel their way out of it by delivering some kind of half-baked game, even if it's nowhere close to what was promised and was delivered years after the fact. This one is actually a bit of a bummer to me because conceptually it sounded like something I would be interested in trying out. The environments looked lovely, and I have a lot of friends who were looking forward to this one and even put money into it. So that was my list of 5 games that tried to scam our hard-earned dollars out of us. Thank you so much for listening along. If you have any thoughts about any of these games, or if there's a game that like you feel personally victimized by, please leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know about it. We can chat about it. You know, I always love to talk about gaming with people. And I just want to thank you again for watching. I will see you in the next video. Until next time, this is Pretty Guardian, logging out.